What if the greatest secret ever kept is not that a God exists, but that we have forgotten we are fragments of that God? In 1944, the mystic Edgar Cayce allegedly gave a final, forbidden interview, a conversation erased from all archives because it contained the key to this forgotten memory, a roadmap for the soul to awaken from its slumber in the material world. This wasn't just speculation. The man they called the sleeping prophet was a living paradox, a case file that defied every law of known science. While clinically asleep, his mind could access any information, anywhere in time. He diagnosed illnesses from 1,000 miles away with terrifying accuracy. He recounted the past lives of complete strangers with names, dates, and locations that were later verified. These weren't just psychic readings, they were pieces of evidence. Evidence pointing to a staggering conclusion that consciousness is not a product of the brain, but a prisoner within it. And in that final, lost conversation, Cayce claimed he had revealed the key to the cell. Edgar Cayce was not a guru on a mountaintop. He was an ordinary man, a devout Christian from Kentucky, with no medical training and only an 8th grade education. By all accounts, he was a humble photographer, almost embarrassed by the abilities that emerged from his trance-like states. He never sought fame or wealth from his readings, often giving them for free. This is the first critical piece of evidence in our investigation. The source was unimpeachable. Cayce himself, in his waking state, was often shocked by the complex medical terminology and profound philosophical concepts that flowed through him while he was asleep. He had no intellectual framework for what he was doing. He was simply a channel, a telephone line that, when dialed, connected directly to what he would later call the source, or the universal consciousness. His work was documented relentlessly. Over 14,000 readings were transcribed and preserved, forming a library of impossible knowledge. Doctors, inventors, and statesmen sought his counsel in secret, and the data pointed to one unsettling conclusion. Cayce was not guessing. He was accessing a database that held the records of every soul's journey through time. But the most compelling proof of his authenticity was not the success of his readings, but his own profound struggle with them. Cayce's waking mind was often the first and most ardent skeptic of his sleeping self. The information that emerged from his trances terrified him, because it often directly contradicted the foundations of his Christian faith. Imagine the spiritual crisis, a man who believes devoutly in one sacred text, who is then forced to become the mouthpiece for a universe that speaks of reincarnation, of souls pre-existing their birth, and of karmic laws that operate with the cold precision of physics. For years he wrestled with the idea that his gift might be the work of a malevolent force, a temptation leading him and others away from God. This internal conflict is the seal of his credibility. A charlatan invents a narrative he can control. Cayce was a witness to a truth that threatened to shatter his own. This wasn't a product of his mind or his beliefs. It was an objective reality breaking through him, forcing him to accept that the map of the cosmos was infinitely larger and more complex than any single religion had ever taught. He was not the author of the message. He was its first captive audience. Through the static of his sleeping voice, Cayce laid out the anatomy of our cosmic amnesia. It is a story not of sin, but of forgetting. A Gnostic drama in 3 parts. First was our origin. We were not created as flawed mortal beings. We began as divine sparks of consciousness, co-creators alongside the source. We were beings of pure energy and thought, and we chose to enter the physical dimensions of Earth. It was an act of exploration, a voluntary mission into the density of matter to learn, to experience, to feel. But with this descent came a profound risk. The risk of becoming so mesmerized by the creation that we would forget the creator within. Second was the nature of our prison. This world, Cayce explained, is not our true home. It is a realm of cause and effect, a school designed for soul growth. But the very tools of this school, our 5 senses, are also the bars of the cell. They feed us a constant stream of limited data, convincing us that the material world is all that exists. This sensory illusion is the source of our spiritual exile. We are gods dreaming we are beggars, trapped not by an external force, but by our own limited perception. And third was the key to our escape. The escape is not through death, but through knowledge, or gnosis. Cayce revealed that every thought, every action, every lifetime of every soul is recorded in a dimension he called the Akashic Records. This is not a dusty library, it is the living source code of reality. It is the universe's memory, and within it is the blueprint of our own forgotten divinity, the complete case file of our soul's journey, waiting to be accessed. He described this journey not as a fall, but as a deliberate dive. Imagine the source as a silent, unified field of light. And within this light, individual sparks, us, made a choice. To truly know ourselves, we had to experience separation. To understand the whole, we had to become a part. So we dove into the slow, dense vibration of matter. The eternal now was fractured into the illusion of past, present, and future. The song of cosmic unity was forgotten, replaced by the solitary beat of a human heart. The engine of this schoolhouse is a law more fundamental than gravity: karma. In the Cayce readings, karma is not a system of reward and punishment from an external god. It is a divine law of mirrors, a perfect feedback loop. Every act of cruelty you inflict, you are only inflicting upon a future version of yourself. Every act of compassion you offer, you are offering to the self you are becoming. This law is the mechanism that binds us to the wheel of rebirth, forcing us to face the consequences of our choices again and again until we learn the ultimate lesson, that the other we are hurting or healing is, and always was, ourselves. This is why we feel echoes of other times, other places, the haunting familiarity of a stranger's eyes, the sudden mastery of a skill we never learned, the recurring dream of a life we never lived. These are not glitches in the brain's wiring. According to Cayce, they are data packets from the Akashic server. They are notifications from our own soul, reminding us that our current identity is just one role in one act of a play that spans millennia. If what Cayce described is the true blueprint of our existence, the implications shatter the very foundation of our lives. This single body of evidence presents a radical reframing of human suffering and purpose. It means that your deepest wounds, your greatest sorrows, were not a random sentence from a cruel universe. They were a syllabus that you wrote for yourself, a set of challenges your own soul chose before this life began, in order to learn a specific, necessary lesson. This transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a protagonist on a self-designed hero's journey, even if you have forgotten the script. This isn't a new fringe idea. It is one of the oldest forbidden truths in Western philosophy. Over 2,000 years ago, Plato, in his Republic, described the human condition in what is now called the allegory of the cave. He depicted prisoners chained in darkness who have spent their entire lives watching shadows dance on a stone wall, believing those shadows to be reality. They do not know they are prisoners. They do not know of the world of light outside the cave. Cayce's work suggests that we are those prisoners. Our senses are the chains, and the material world is the shadow play. If this is true, then death is not the termination of our being. It is the end of our imprisonment. It is the moment the prisoner is unchained, turns around, and finally sees the light that was his own source all along. This Gnostic revelation doesn't just offer comfort. It demands a total re-evaluation of what it means to be alive. This reframes every relationship, every failure, every moment of grace. The feeling of being a pawn in a game you don't understand, the gnawing sense that your life lacks meaning. This is the core narrative of materialism. A story that tells you that you are a biological accident and that your consciousness is a fleeting chemical reaction that will simply be extinguished. But the Gnostic detective discovers the opposite. It is a plot twist of cosmic proportions. The actor has become so lost in the role that he forgets he is an actor. He mistakes the stage for the entire world. He starts to resent the script. He blames the other actors for their lines. He fears the final curtain call. The moment of awakening, the gnosis, is the moment the actor remembers. He realizes the villain in Act 2 is the same soul who agreed, before the play began, to help him learn the meaning of forgiveness. He realizes the heartbreak in Act 3 was the catalyst he himself designed to discover his own strength. Suddenly your life is no longer a series of random events. It is a curated gallery of your own lessons. Every person who broke your heart was a teacher you hired. Every dead end was a redirection you planned. The prison was a classroom all along. For all the thousands of pages of detailed, specific information Cayce provided, there was always one point where the transmission would break down. One question that the universal consciousness itself seemed unable to answer in human terms. Investigators and followers noticed a pattern. Whenever they asked Cayce in his trance to describe the ultimate nature of the source, of God, the clear, confident voice would falter. The flow of information, which could so easily recount the life of a Roman soldier or diagnose a rare blood disease, would slow to a whisper. The transcripts show him struggling, resorting to paradox and poetry. He would say it was the oneness of the all, or the sound that is the silence. He would describe a state of being, not a person or a king on a throne, but he could never provide a definitive file. There was no schematic for God. This silence is perhaps the most profound piece of evidence in the entire Cayce archive. It suggests there is a boundary where knowledge ends and being begins, a truth so vast, so all-encompassing, that the instrument of human language simply collapses when it tries to contain it. He could give us the case file on our cosmic amnesia. He could read from the script of our chosen lives, but he could not describe the home we have forgotten. That is a memory that cannot be told, only returned to. The Gnostic detective recognizes this as the ultimate clue. The language of the prison cannot describe the reality of freedom. Our entire vocabulary is forged in the world of duality, the world of separation, of self and other, light and dark, good and evil. How can such a tool, built from the very fabric of the illusion, ever hope to map the perfect unity that exists beyond it? It's like trying to pour the ocean into a teacup. The instrument is not fit for the task. This isn't a new problem. It is the final barrier encountered by every mystic and philosopher who has ever attempted the journey inward. Plato spoke of the form of the good, the source of all being, which could be understood through reason but never fully defined in words. In the Hindu Upanishads, the ultimate reality, Brahman, is described only by what it is not. Neti, not this, not that. The scribes who documented Cayce's readings reported that these moments were the most profound. The air in the room would grow heavy with a palpable presence. It wasn't that the information failed, it was that the information was replaced by a direct transmission of awe. It was a demonstration, not a description. The final lesson was that the source is not a concept to be understood by the mind, but a reality to be experienced by the soul. And that experience begins where words end. The knowledge Cayce unveiled is not just a curiosity, it is a direct threat to the dominant paradigms of our world. A truth so revolutionary that it acts as a universal solvent, dissolving the foundations of both religious dogma and scientific materialism. For institutional religion, the Gnostic revelation is the ultimate heresy. It removes the need for intermediaries. If the divine spark is already within you, and you have the ability to access the blueprint of your own soul, then the entire structure of priests, popes, and saviors becomes redundant. You are not a lost sheep in need of a shepherd. You are a shepherd who has forgotten his own way home. This idea dismantles the architecture of spiritual authority. For mainstream science, the evidence is even more dangerous. The materialist model, which has dominated thought for centuries, insists that consciousness is an illusion, a ghost in the machine of the brain. The brain produces thought, and when the brain dies, the ghost vanishes. Cayce's 14,000 documented cases of consciousness operating outside the constraints of space, time, and biology are not just anomalies. They are a direct refutation of this core dogma. They attempted to dismiss the readings as fraud, but his accuracy was too high and his motives too pure. They tried to explain them away as super psi or latent telepathy, but they could never explain one critical fact. How could a man with an 8th grade education access detailed historical and medical information far beyond the collective knowledge of his time? This wasn't a mind reading another mind. It was a consciousness querying a universal database. This is why the evidence is not just ignored. It is actively suppressed. It presents a choice. Either one man was the greatest psychic anomaly in history, or our entire model of reality is fundamentally flawed. This knowledge is dangerous for a simpler, more profound reason. It undermines the most powerful control mechanism ever invented: fear. Specifically, the fear of death. A person who genuinely understands, not just believes, that their consciousness is immortal, becomes ungovernable. How do you control a population that is not afraid of the ultimate punishment? How do you sell them a life of quiet desperation and consumerism if they know this is just a temporary classroom, not the whole of existence? How do you motivate them with promises of a heavenly afterlife if they understand that they carry the kingdom of heaven within them right now? The entire economic and social system is built on a foundation of perceived scarcity and mortality. The Gnostic truth reveals that the soul is a creature of infinite abundance and eternal life. To accept what Cayce said is to step outside the entire game. It is to realize that the prison has no walls, except for the ones we accept in our own minds. This is not just a philosophical debate, it is a declaration of spiritual independence. And no empire, religious or secular, has ever looked kindly upon a declaration of independence. This investigation does not end with a conclusion, but with a question. The evidence presented by the Cayce readings is not a story to be passively consumed. It is a mirror. It forces you to confront the possibility that you are infinitely more than you have been told. The Gnostic detective does not ask you to believe in Edgar Cayce. He asks you to consider the possibility that Cayce was a proof of concept, a demonstration of a human potential that lies dormant within every one of us. The ability to sleep, to quiet the noise of the five senses, and access the vast silent database of the soul. This is the forbidden knowledge, not that we were created by a higher power, but that we are that power, experiencing itself inside a dream. The great spiritual journey is not about finding God, it is about waking up from the illusion of our own separation from God. Now that you have seen the evidence, you cannot unsee it. The question is no longer whether the prison door is locked. The question is whether you are ready to turn the key. If this investigation resonates with the questions you've been asking, subscribe to continue the great exploration. This concludes our inquiry for now, a synthesis of documented evidence and timeless philosophical questions grounded in the sources that guide our journey. What truth did you recognize today?